Chapter 541, Simple Entrustment. How did my reputation spread so quickly? Even if the rumor of me hunting Berman arrived in Port Santa 2 days before the flying bird, the entrustee would have to take time to determine where I live. The authenticity of the news, Lumian estimated a few days before someone sought his services, and this led his thoughts to the unnatural, Madame. He stood up and said to Lugano, "Invite that Madame in." With those words, Lumian stooped to pick up the distinctive golden straw hat from the small round table. He aimed to make Louis Barry's image more memorable, adding a touch of flair to his persona. In no time, Lugano escorted a woman in her 30s into the room. She wore a loose-fitting white dress adorned with red flowers, accentuating her curves. Port Santa's women, in contrast to the Darij region just across the mountain, favored glamorous and stylish attire, embodying a romantic and liberated aesthetic, reflecting the traditional taste of the Fainapotter kingdom. The lady, with long brown hair tied up and a healthy complexion, entered without a maid. Her azure eyes, framed by thick eyelashes, focused on Lumian, who held the golden straw hat. Her red lips moved, and though Lumian couldn't grasp every word, the name Louis Barry was discernible in her pronunciation. Promptly, Lugano initiated the translation. "The Madame says, 'Honorable Monsieur Louis Barry, I've heard about your hunt of the demon warlock. I wonder if you're willing to help my family solve a problem.'" Lumian's gaze shifted from the jeweled bead bracelet on the lady's wrist to her beautiful and mature face. "What's your name?" "Georgia," the lady replied after Lugano translated. Lumian repeated, acknowledging the lady's name with a smile. "Madame Georgia, what would you like to entrust me with?" Georgia listened attentively to Lugano's translation and spoke in Highlander with a slight local accent. "An evil creature has appeared in my household. I need your help eliminating it." Lumian, though grasping the gist, awaited Lugano's translation by casting his gaze at him. When Lugano conveyed Georgia's words in Intijan, Lumian chuckled and said, "I'm sorry, I forgot to invite the beautiful Madame to have a seat." The great adventurer Jayaman Sparrow taught us that manners are very important. Gesturing toward the sofa, Lumian settled onto the divan, attempting to caress Ludwig's head like a godfather. Ludwig quickly shifted his position, avoiding Lumian's attempt to treat him as a child. As Georgia took her place in an armchair, Lumian, shaking his golden straw hat, leaned forward. "Since it's an evil creature, why don't you just find a clergyman of the Earth Mother Church to handle it?" Georgia looked at Lugano and listened attentively. She pursed her thick lips and replied in Highlander, "We don't want the church to know about this. It will damage our family's reputation." "Is that why you are entrusting me, a foreigner who will leave after watching the sea prayer ritual? And that's after confirming my ability to deal with that evil creature?" Lumian, pondering this choice, shifted his gaze away from Lugano. After a brief pause, he inquired, "Tell me more about that evil creature." After a brief pause, Georgia contemplated and then shared, "It resembles a tailless lizard. It attacked everyone in the household, killing a few maids and valets and devoured their bodies. Our family's bodyguards fired on it and injured it, but they failed to kill it because it has very strong scales. We could only chase it to the basement and lock it up. We thought it would slowly starve to death from hunger and thirst. To our surprise, nearly 2 weeks later, it's still alive and trying to break open the basement door. It doesn't seem very dangerous. They could repel it with ordinary firearms. They didn't mention why the lizard appeared. It appears that this is why they aren't willing to seek out the Church of Earth Mother and the local government to handle it." Lumian thoughtfully compared the few words he understood to the content translated by Lugano and confirmed that the guide hadn't embellished or redacted any content. Lumian then casually inquired, "Were there any casualties among the bodyguards?" Georgia, after the translation, shook her head slowly. "No fatalities. 2 were injured, but nothing severe. Yes, that monster made the entire room feel like it had been dragged into the deep sea, affecting normal movements." As if dragged into the deep sea, there's indeed certain beyonder phenomena. But it seems relatively weak. Deep sea Lumian's interest was piqued as he earnestly inquired about the details. After a series of responses, Georgia said gently, "Monsieur Louis Barry, We're willing to pay you 15,000 risat, but you have to promise not to publicize this matter. 15,000 gold risat? According to your description, the monster is worth at most 5,000 gold risat. The remaining 10,000 should be a hush money, right? Lumian smiled and said in broken Highlander, "Sure thing." Rising from his seat, Lumian announced in Intijan, "I want to observe the situation at the scene." Georgia stood up and listened to Lugano's translation. She wasn't surprised by Louis Barry's request. Familiar with adventurers and bounty hunters, she understood the importance of assessing the situation firsthand and making thorough preparations. It meant survivability or success for the elites. Now, Georgia sought confirmation. Lumian comprehended the word and affirmed in Highlander, "Now." Adorning his golden straw hat, he made his way to the door, supplementing in Intijan, "Also, prepare a sumptuous dinner for me, my godson, and my translator." Georgia, slightly taken aback by the translation, watched Lumian's departure. She couldn't shake the feeling that this adventurer possessed a distinct quality compared to those she had encountered before. Port Santa, St. Lana Street. To the northeast of the city stood multi-story villas, adorned with gardens, lawns, and stables. Georgia's residence occupied number 21 on this street. The 5-story villa boasted brownish-red outer walls, adorned with statues of angels and saintesses from the Earth Mother Church, along with symbols depicting waves and fishing. Wearing his distinctive golden straw hat and holding Ludwig's hand, the latter carrying a red school bag, Lumian trailed behind Georgia, accompanied by her maid and valet. Together, they entered the villa's hall, which also served as a spacious dance floor beneath a tall, dome ceiling. As Lumian stepped inside, he felt unseen eyes upon him from the circular railings on the upper floors. It's indeed a household with multiple families sharing one roof. There are quite a few people, Lumian mused, choosing not to look up, smiling inwardly. The concealed observers remained hidden. Georgia then summoned 2 legally armed bodyguards, leading Lumian and the entourage down to the second basement, where the iron-black door stood tightly shut. As if sensing someone approaching, the door slammed as if struck by a powerful force. "It's inside," Georgia stated, pointing at the iron door with a complicated expression. Lumian, understanding without the need for translation, pressed down on his golden straw hat and directed, "Take my godson to the living room for dinner dessert." As he spoke, he strode towards the subterranean iron door without a backward glance. Upon hearing Lugano's translation, Georgia and the maid hastily guided Ludwig back to the surface. A bodyguard caught up to Lumian, his expression serious, and handed him a pewter-black key. Without delay, the 2 bodyguards drew their revolvers, positioning themselves to aim at the iron door, preventing the monster from escaping. Lumian methodically inserted the key into the lock, unlocking it. He tossed the key aside and effortlessly pushed the iron door open with one hand. In an instant, the monster's figure came into view. A humanoid lizard, adorned with glistening, robust scales, met Lumian's eyes. Where there were no scales, smooth, sinister snake-like skin was exposed. The monster's eyes were vertical, and they glowed with a nearly transparent light. Its mouth harbored sharp teeth that formed a menacing vortex. Simultaneously, Lumian felt the air around him grow dense, like shackles enveloping him, clearly impeding his normal movements. The moisture gave the sensation of plunging into the deep sea, enduring pressure from all directions. The humanoid lizard lunged forward, and Lumian's body leaned towards the enemy as if pulled by a vortex. Yet the obvious smile on his lips persisted as he calmly attempted to pivot. Suddenly, a latent power surged within him, allowing him to break free from the air's constraints. Lumian swiftly rotated his body, swinging his right fist from below. Instantly, crimson flames, nearly white, ignited from his fist, spreading to his forearm, resembling a dazzling fire serpent. Bang! The punch struck the humanoid lizard's chest and abdomen, causing the flames to compress. Boom! The humanoid lizard was sent flying, crystalline scales splattering from its chest and abdomen, resulting in a massive wound. Lumian didn't give chase. With one hand in his pocket, he changed his right fist to a palm and gently pushed forward. Crimson, nearly white fireballs materialized before him, whistling into the wound on the lizard's chest and abdomen. Rumble. The monster disintegrated, its flesh and blood splattering across the ground. Lumion observed for a few moments before adjusting his golden straw hat. He turned around and walked towards the stairs leading to the surface. The two armed and vigilant bodyguards maintained their original posture, still in a daze, unable to comprehend what had transpired. Lumion didn't rouse them as he ascended the stairs. Upon hearing the explosion, Georgia, on the ground, left the lounge with Lugano and approached the staircase. She saw Lumion coming up. "Have you confirmed the situation?" Madame Georgia asked with concern. Lumion replied with a smirk, "It's resolved.